Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. In a couple of seconds, you will hear former President Donald Trump, future President Donald Trump, talk about an historic victory. You'll also hear his lawyers, legal scholars, and that's just in a couple of seconds. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my super chat and to the members on this channel, thank you so very much. This was an historic, monumental rebuke of the most absurd notion that Trump tried to commit a rebellion. There was no evidence that he did. The video footage was selectively and deceptively edited. Democrats and media focused on only certain footage and omitted, in a lie by omission of epic proportions, people being let into the building. Trump used the words peaceful. He was not like Chuck Schumer in reference to Brett Kavanaugh, for example. Paul Bartlett, thank you again. My God, Paul Bartlett in Australia, thank you. Nicholas in Australia, thank you. To my super chat and to the viewers around the world in the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK, thank you so very much for watching. Hit subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to hear former President and future President Donald Trump speak. This is just absolutely amazing. It is absolutely amazing, ladies and gentlemen, for a number of reasons. Let's just get to Trump first, and then we'll talk about how this was not only historic, and Paul Bartlett, thank you again, not only the most historic rebuke of what authoritarians and totalitarians and despots attempt to do, which is ban political opponents, but this was democracy being restored in this country. You can't ban political opponents because you think they committed a crime. He had to have been convicted of a crime, and Congress, and we'll see Matt Gaetz also in a couple of seconds, going to bat and defending Trump, and Trump Republicans in Congress, ensuring that Congress will never pass any legislation that bans Trump, which is what the Supreme Court stated also. This was an absolute refutation, rebuke, repudiation of an unconstitutional ban. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Let's get started.
Well, thank you very much. I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court for its unanimous decision today. It was a very important decision. We're very well crafted, and I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs. And they worked long, they worked hard, and frankly, they worked very quickly on something that will be spoken about 100 years from now and 200 years from now. Extremely important. Essentially, you cannot take somebody out of a race because an opponent would like to have it that way. And it has nothing to do with the fact that it's the leading candidate, whether it was the leading candidate or a candidate that was well down on the totem pole. You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that.
When Doug and Andre
well, and I really do believe that will be a unifying factor, because while most states were thrilled to have me, there were some that didn't, and they didn't want that for political reasons. They didn't want that because of poll numbers, because the poll numbers are very good. We're beating President Biden in almost every poll. New York Times came out yesterday with a very big poll for us. So they didn't like that, and you can't do that. You can't do what they tried to do. And hopefully Colorado, as an example, will unify. I know there's tremendous support. They brought our support up very strong in Colorado, because people in Colorado thought that was a terrible thing that they did. And while we're on the subject, and another thing that will be coming up very soon will be immunity for a president, and not immunity for me, but for any president. If a president doesn't have full immunity, you really don't have a president, because nobody that is serving in that office will have the courage to make, in many cases, what would be the right decision, or it could be the wrong decision. It could be, in some cases, the wrong decision, but they have to make decisions, and they have to make them free of all terror that can be rained upon them when they leave office or even before they leave office. And some decisions are very tough. I can tell you that as a president, that some decisions to make are very tough. I took out ISIS, and I took out, I don't want to be prosecuted for it. Another president wouldn't want to be prosecuted for it. It had a tremendously positive impact. It stopped everything cold. And sometimes you have to make, they were tough decisions. Sometimes you have to make decisions like that. When you make a decision, you don't want to have your opposing party or opponent or even somebody that just thinks you're wrong bring a criminal suit against you or any kind of a suit when you leave office. I have that right now at a level that nobody's ever seen before. I have rogue prosecutors, and I have rogue judges. I have judges that are out of control. And it's a very unfair thing for me, but serving perhaps as a sample to others of what should not be happening when you make good decisions. And in my case, the economy was great. We didn't go into any wars. We totally defeated ISIS. We provided the largest tax cuts in history. We provided the largest regulation cuts in history. But think of it, no wars. We beat ISIS 100% of the caliphate. And there were no wars. We did a job that was great, but maybe I wouldn't have done that. The caliphate, defeating them, was very ended. We were fighting for work out so well, but I don't want to be prosecuted because I decided to do something that is very much for the good of the country and actually for the good of the world. A president shouldn't have that on his mind, and he has to have a free and clear mind when he makes very big decisions. Or it's going to be nothing more than a ceremonial post. You'll be president, it'll be a wonderful thing, and you won't do anything because you don't want to be hit by your opponent or hit by somebody else, because who wants to leave office and go through what I've gone through? I'm being prosecuted by Biden, my opponent, because every one of these things, whether it's Fannie Willis or Bragg, these are local and state, but they're in total coordination with the White House. You can't do that. It shouldn't be done. I mean, a thing like that, in the case of the DA's office, they put one of the top people, maybe the second person, in the Manhattan DA's office to get Trump. They had a Hillary Clinton lawyer leave the law firm, very prestigious big law firm, leave the law firm to go into the DA's office to get Trump, Pomerantz, Mr. Pomerantz. So he goes in to become a prosecutor, worked for the Democrat Party and Hillary Clinton, goes in to prosecute Donald Trump at a local level, in total coordination with the Department of Justice, meaning Biden. And then you have the Fannie Willis, or as she would say, Fani, F-A-N-I, but Fani. And she hired somebody, knew the person long before this horrible prosecution took place. And she went out and she paid him an unbelievable amount of money, more money than he ever had dreamt possible, much more money than other people that do that for a living. He never did it at all, had no experience in it at all. And they had obviously a conflict. We don't have to go into that, but they were able to get a lot of money because it was a high-profile person. Me, I'm a very high-profile person. So they were able to pay him close to $1 million when he was not equipped to do the job, and she's not equipped to do the job, and that case should end immediately. That case is so conflicted, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And then you have deranged Jack Smith, who's a Trump hater and represents all the Trump haters, and he's going wild. He's just a wild man. He's been overturned unanimously by the Supreme Court. Went after other people over the years. He's had great failure, but he's mean, he's nasty, he's unfair, and the judges on these cases, they're all Trump haters. Other than we have maybe one or two that I think can be fair. But you look at New York, what's happened. I mean, these people have tremendous hatred. You can't do this to a president. And again, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about in the future. A president has to be free. A president has to be, if the president does a good job, I did. Some people would say a great job. But if the president does a good job, a president should be free and clear and frankly celebrated for having done a good job. Not indicted 4 times and not gone after on a civil basis and not demanded to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in fines on something that was absolutely perfect, where there were no victims, where the financial statements were absolutely flawless, where you have disclaimer clauses. I mean, nobody's ever had a thing like this. I wasn't given a jury, and I had a clubhouse judge just come up with this number on a perfect loan and very conservative financial statements. But even at that, if you look, the disclaimer says don't rely on the financial statements in any way, shape, or form. Go out and do your own work. The bank in question had the most sophisticated lawyers in the world, frankly, one of the top law firms anywhere in the country, and they can defend themselves. What guys like Bragg and Letitia James and Fani and deranged Jack Smith, what they should be doing is fighting violent crime. And that would lead me to the end. I will say that President Biden, number one, stop weaponization. Fight your fight yourself. Don't use prosecutors and judges to go after your opponent, to try and damage your opponent so you can win an election. Our country is much bigger than that. The other thing I say to President Biden, close the borders now. This is not sustainable for our country. It's not sustainable for our cities. Our country is under siege. This is a violent thing that you've done. And many people are dying. Many people are dying. They die on the train.
For any man with a
Many are terrorists. That's almost larger than any from all parts of the Middle East. Of miles of wall, and the reason I built it and how I built it was I considered it an invasion of our country, and I took the money from the military, and the Army Corps of Engineers did it with me, and we did a great job. And we had the safest border we've ever had, and now we have the most unsafe border anywhere in the world at any time. There's never been a border like this at any country, anywhere in the world. They would have fought with sticks and stones to stop the horrible situation that's occurring. Our people can't stand it, and the people coming in really can't stand it because they're dying. Many are dying on the trip up, and they're dying in fought Congress on it. Close the borders. You can do it right now. You have everything. Use my policies. My policies were great. Everybody said it. Use my policies. So just to finish, I have great respect for the Supreme Court, and I want to just thank them for working so quickly and so diligently and so brilliantly. And again, this is a unifying factor. Everybody now is together, and they can go after me as a politician. They can go after me with votes, but they're not going to go after me with that kind of lawsuit that takes somebody out of a race who's leading in this case, but even if the person wasn't leading. And I want to thank you all for being here. Do we have any questions? Yes.
Mr. President, the poll numbers are massive for you going into Super Tuesday. We found that a lot of people that were agnostic to politics in general see these legal cases against you. They see how life was back under a Trump administration. Do you think that's the key to pull some of these independent voters into this next election, seeing that these legal cases are unfair, they have no merit, and also the poll numbers and their life before Trump?
It's such an interesting question because historically a thing like what I've been going through would have hurt a political party or a political candidate terrifically. You wouldn't even run. You wouldn't be able to run. You'd get out. And this has happened over many years, many times. In this case, I mean, the polls show that I'm much more popular than I was before weaponization. It's been weaponized like it's never been. This is for third world countries. This isn't for us. Biden ought to drop all of these things. And frankly, he may do better if he does, because people would say, wow, that was very reasonable. Look, they're all, the state, the city, and the federal, they're all coordinated. Fannie Willis's lover spent hours and hours at the White House, I guess with White House counsel and with DOJ, plotting out this plan. Nobody talks about that. They're all coordinated with the White House. It's weaponization. Never been done in this country. It's been done in third world countries, banana republics, never in this country. So I really believe what they should do is really go all the way, go out and stop all of this nonsense. They're nonsense cases, and everybody sees it. You just look at Atlanta. It's such an embarrassment to Georgia, what's happening there. But Jack Smith, I don't think is any better. Letitia James is terrible. She campaigned on, I will get Trump, I will get Trump, and then it goes before a Trump-hating judge. I mean, the whole thing is a rigged deal, and the public understands it. I'm lucky that I'm able to explain it to the public, because if you weren't able to explain it, the public wouldn't know. They'd believe what they see. So I don't want to win this way. Look, I want to win based on my policies are better. We're going to cut taxes. We're going to get interest rates down. You're going to be able to buy homes again. I mean, you can't buy a home today. The interest rates are so high. I want to win on safe borders. I want to stop wars. I want to stop the war in Ukraine with Russia. I want to stop what's happening in Israel. Israel would have never kept them there very easily. And it probably maybe caused the war with Ukraine, but he wouldn't have done it anyway because I told him not to. So I just want to thank all of you for being here. I think it's a very big day for America. I think it's a very big day for liberty, and I think it's just a great day for this country. Again, I hope it's unifying like I think, but it is. It's a big step toward unification. I hope that the justices, because they'll be working on some other cases, but one in particular, presidents have to be given total immunity. They have to be allowed to do their job. If they're not allowed to do their job, it's not what the founders wanted, but perhaps even more importantly, it will be terrible for our country.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard President Trump. He's going to get a landslide victory in 24. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel right now. We are almost at 219,000 subs. We're literally about 15, 16 subs away from 219,000. So you could be the 219,000 subscriber. Hit subscribe right now. But Paul Bartlett, Nicholas Orm, to my viewers in Australia, thank you so much. Cannot thank you enough. The super chat and the members, you really help me do these live streams, and I cannot thank you enough. This is a monumental, historic day that's going to catapult Trump to a landslide victory. I'm going to explain why. Okay? We're going to hear poll numbers in a couple of seconds that back everything I'm saying. Trump is up among Latino and Hispanic voters. He's up among young voters, African American and black voters. He's up among Democratic Party, the pillars of the Democratic Party. People who generally vote Democrat are now voting Republican or Trump. They're not voting for Nikki Haley. They're voting for Trump. Without overwhelming support from black and African American, Latino and Hispanic and young voters, Democrats will never win an election again. And we're looking at a landslide this year, ladies and gentlemen. So the reason is because when the Supreme Court and the average American looks at the Supreme Court, reveres or respects or admires the Supreme Court, whether they agree with the decision or not, the Supreme Court is the judicial branch of this country. It represents the final statement on the Constitution, what is and what isn't constitutional. Everyone in this country, in the United States of America, grows up respecting, revering, admiring, or at least acknowledging that the Supreme Court is the final say in the Constitution. Trump had a unanimous Supreme Court victory today. Unanimous. The reason that is important is because in swing states, independent voters throughout the country, and especially in swing states, are not going to be swayed by the viewpoint or the notion, the absurd notion that Trump is a criminal, that Trump is a menace to democracy. You cannot be a menace to democracy when the Supreme Court has ruled in your favor unanimously. Unanimously. 9-0, even the liberal justices. That is democracy. That is the Constitution. When they say that Trump tried to rebel against the Constitution, the Supreme Court just obliterated and annihilated that notion. He, of course, did not. It was selectively edited videos that Democrats looked at. And they ignored the words from his own speech that said peaceful. But think about what's going to take place. Now you have a whole country looking at Trump and saying, wow, the Supreme Court sided with Trump. That means Democrats have been lying about his criminal behavior for so long. Let's look at, really quickly, let's look at poll numbers, ladies and gentlemen, and really interesting poll numbers that no Republican, or at least no Republican in recent memory, has been able to achieve.
Yeah, I think these polls, or this poll, I should say, of various battleground states by the New York Times and CNN, certainly getting a ton of attention, making a lot of Democrats uneasy, and I think for good reason here. Let's take a look. These are the 6 battleground states that we all sort of think will decide the 2024 election. And the Times polled all of them, and I mean, you can see in 5 of the 6, they have Donald Trump ahead, including by a double-digit margin in Nevada, the only one where Joe Biden leads Donald Trump currently, Wisconsin, by a slim 2-point margin right there. I think what makes this so striking, and I say is it could be a good reason for cause for concern for Democrats, is the Times and CNN also did a series of battleground state polls around this time in 2019, basically the fall between the before the 2020 election. And they matched Biden against Trump, and that polling was very good for Biden. He was leading in most of the battleground states. It became something that his campaign pushed as part of their message to Democratic primary voters of electability. And now, basically exactly 4 years later, the same polling outlet is again polling battleground states and consistently finding a different result.
And Steve, where Biden is slightly ahead in Wisconsin, but barely?
Yeah, and it's the irony, because the big strength for Trump originally was that he was able to flip these 3 states, but Biden right now continues to lead in Wisconsin. Trump does in this polling have an advantage in Michigan and Pennsylvania, but Wisconsin in particular, but all 3 of those states have older populations. In Wisconsin in particular, not a lot of non-white voters in Wisconsin. And actually, if you say what's powering Trump right now to better numbers is surprising support from younger voters and non-white voters, that's actually a recipe to struggle a little bit in those upper Midwest states. And
So I agree with everything that this polling expert stated up until the end. If Trump is doing better than most Republicans among non-white voters, and he's doing better among traditional Republican voters, you're looking at a landslide victory. You're looking at Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania, Michigan. He can get Wisconsin. Okay, it's possible in Minnesota. I mean, you have to ask yourself who is voting for Biden after 4 years of a catastrophe. Okay, the economy is terrible, not good. Okay, we are on the brink of a terrible stock market crash. And did I not tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we'd have a 9-0 decision? Did I not tell you that the Supreme Court would side with Trump? I've been telling you this for a long time. I've been telling you this about the immunity also, and every single criminal trial. I told you years back Clinton would lose to Trump. I think that Trump is going to have a resounding victory in 2024 in November. So be here, obviously, definitely be here in November, but all throughout November and beyond. Then they're going to they're already talking about it. There's an Atlantic article. They're already talking about trying to get Trump off the ballot, not certifying any victory associated with Trump in 2024. So, you look, ladies and gentlemen, and it's like there's no stopping Trump. There's no stopping Trump. I think it's quite possible. Quite possible. And you can't pontificate about democracy and then, harp on how Trump is this criminal and undemocratic while you lose in such a huge fashion in the Supreme Court. I mean, this was an historic day, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and again, this is going to affect the undecided independent voters. The entire charade from Democrats is that Trump is a menace to democracy, he's a criminal, and you can't allow this criminal and this menace to democracy to become president again. But the problem is that he just won in a monumental, historic, biblical Supreme Court decision that was unanimous. Even the liberal justices voted alongside Trump. He was not convicted. And oh, by the way, they say, well, you know what? You have to get Congress. You have to get Congress. Well, here's Matt Gaetz and Elise Stefanik and others saying they're going to go to bat for Trump. He did not commit a rebellion. So Democrats do not have the House. And they will not have the ability to, Mayorkas was just impeached, so you still have the votes. Okay, despite the loss with the Santos seat. You still have the votes to stop any attempt. And by the way, you would still need the Supreme Court to see if the legislation was constitutional anyway. Okay, which is hilarious also. But this is Matt Gaetz, Elise Stefanik, Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about how they're going to bat for Trump in Congress, which is what you would need to stop him.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We've got a lot going on the Hill today, so we're going to have members coming and going during this press conference. But we are here today to authoritatively express that President Trump did not commit an insurrection, and we believe Congress has a unique role in making that declaration. It's not the job of the states, and especially not the job of some bureaucrats in Colorado, to make this assessment and interfere with the rights of voters to cast their vote for the candidate of their choice. The very experts who often get on television and talk about securing democracy seem to be the first to want to then remove a candidate from the ballot because they are afraid that he is too popular. We have 63 co-sponsors to the resolution that Ms. Stefanik and I will be filing today to
January 10th, 2020.
that President Trump did not commit an insurrection. I want to express my gratitude to Senator Vance for filing the companion legislation over in the Senate. And now is time for members of the House and Senate to show where they stand on this question. We and the former president welcome and expect many more co-sponsors in the coming days and look forward to a floor vote. And now I'd like to recognize my co-lead on this project, our terrific Republican Conference Chair, Elise Stefanik.
Thank you so much, Matt Gaetz. The American people are smart. They know that the weaponized attacks of radical far-left prosecutors and Joe Biden's Department of Justice against President Donald Trump are nothing more than a targeted political witch hunt used to further their own extreme far-left political agenda and hijack the will of the American people come Election Day. As President Donald Trump continues to dominate in the polls, extreme Democrats will stop at nothing in attempt to prevent President Donald Trump from returning to the White House, and the Democrats are shredding the Constitution in the process. Joe Biden claims that democracy is on the ballot, yet the American people know that it is Joe Biden and Democrats who are openly attacking democracy. I am honored to stand as an original co-sponsor on Congressman Gaetz' resolution that President Donald Trump did not engage in insurrectional rebellion against the United States. That is a fact. Rogue far-left Democrat operatives are attempting to use this lie to illegally take President Trump off the ballot. This week, the Supreme Court will begin arguments in Trump v. Anderson to determine if liberal activist judges have the right to erase Donald Trump from the ballot, steal the election, and the American people's right to elect our leaders. For the sake of American democracy, I am proud to fight for President Trump and the tens of millions of American patriots who face political persecution. With that, I'm honored to turn it over to Bill Posey, our colleague who is also a co-sponsor of this bill. Bill.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Super Tuesday tomorrow, and Trump is gonna dominate. So think about this, okay? Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. You had an immunity victory the other day, where the Supreme Court is not only going to look at the immunity case, prolonging the special counsel trial in D.C. past November, okay? Which is a huge victory for Trump. But you also, ladies and gentlemen, have this monumental Supreme Court victory, unanimous Supreme Court victory. So you had the immunity victory with the Supreme Court. And I think they're going to give him immunity for the speech. I think that he's covered under the speech, okay? He did not tell anyone to commit a crime. Okay, the Democrats make these stupid leaps of logic, and they expect the entire planet to just follow their lead when it comes to really absurd leaps of logic. Okay, most people do not see the world in the way Democrats see the world. As you can see today, as illustrated today with a 9-0 Supreme Court victory for Trump. Okay, and the fact that they're going to look at the immunity case. So Democrats have been making very extreme, absurd leaps of logic, unconstitutional, undemocratic, while they pontificate about democracy. Democracy's on the ballot. Like, no, you've redefined democracy to mean whatever is good for the Democratic Party. So, okay, so you have the immunity victory. You had a monumental victory today with the Supreme Court. Tomorrow, Trump is just going to dominate Super Tuesday. Okay, he will absolutely dominate. Tomorrow we'll have a celebration live stream also. And there's nothing stopping him. His poll numbers go up, 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 up. He's not losing in polls. He's up nationally. And he's up nationally in the polls. And so you have there's nothing stopping him. There's pretty much nothing stopping Trump at all. He's winning among key demographic groups, core demographic groups within the Democratic Party. And by the way, now you have CNN crumbling. You had Vice and BuzzFeed, and I don't want anyone to lose their job. I'm not happy that these places are laying off people, but you have an entire media apparatus crumbling right before November. So how are they going to stop Trump? They can't. God forbid, God forbid, God forbid your mind wanders into a nightmarish realm. You'd still have Donald Trump Jr. or Eric Trump. The entire country would rally, and now it's becoming fashionable to like Trump. So you have musical artists, you have actors, everyone is slowly realizing, oh, that's right, this hysteria regarding Trump, it was sophomoric, it was counterproductive, it was petulant, and you know what? 4 years of a great economy and a great foreign policy again would do the country wonders. It would do the country very good. Okay, so there's really nothing stopping Trump. Tell me what's going to stop Trump. I don't know. I don't think anything. I think you're going to look at, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. You're going to look at places throughout the country. Even Colorado, he might actually win even Colorado. Because if the Colorado Supreme Court was basically humiliated today. The people, the justices in the state Supreme Court were essentially, it was embarrassing. So, I mean, this was a rebuke, and I've been telling you, ladies and gentlemen, I've been telling you, it's going to happen. A unanimous rebuke of a really unconstitutional ban. Okay, now they're trying desperately to convict Trump. It ain't going to work, though. It ain't going to work. That's the thing. And so there's nothing they could even convict him in New York for the hush money payment, and then that would be overturned by the Supreme Court too. Or Congress would get involved. So, or a state Supreme Court. Just like and then there was the victory regarding Trump being able to get loans, acquire loans. So, in New York. So he doesn't have to pay from his pocket the $450 million. Which he has $3.1 billion. It's like not that Democrats live in their own fantasy world where Trump is this impoverished rebel, and he hasn't achieved anything in his life. It's like, no, the opposite is true. He's a billionaire who was a very successful president who might have said some things that were crude, but nothing compared to what Democrats and Biden and Schumer and others have stated. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this was a huge, huge day. Hit subscribe to this channel. I'll be back tomorrow at around, I'd say 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll have maybe before, probably 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern, and then 10 p.m. Eastern for the celebration. Because Super Tuesday is going to be yet another tremendous victory for Trump. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very, very much. Nicholas and Paul Bartlett, thank you so very much. To my super chat and the members, thank you. Can't thank you enough, everybody. Hit subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow. Huge, historic day, and we talked about it